to today's news conference. For the reporters on the line today, if you can keep your mics muted, and when you are called upon to ask a question, please open up the microphone. And a reminder that reporters, you can ask 2 questions at once or 1 question and 1 follow-up. We are pleased to welcome the Honourable Rajan Sawhney, Minister of Community and Social Services, Dale Nally, the Associate Minister of Natural Gas and Electricity and the MLA for Morinville, St. Albert. Also joining us today, Lynn Rosachuk is the mother of Jessica Martel and the Jesse's House founder, and the Executive Director for Jesse's House is Marla Welk. We will begin this morning with the Honourable Rajan Sawhney.
Thank you, Rob, and good morning, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. This past year, we have all been living the same reality, the reality of COVID-19. This pandemic has left a devastating impact on our families, our friends, and our communities. Daily, we are reminded to keep our distance, to stay home and comply with health measures set out to keep us all safe. While these restrictions are helping to bend down the curve and protect our loved ones, there are many unintended consequences. As with all major public emergencies, the most vulnerable among us tend to suffer more. And with COVID-19, this is no different. The crush of job loss and the effects of lockdowns has led to an unacceptable increase in family violence. The United Nations has deemed this worldwide spike as a shadow pandemic. In Alberta, the statistics speak for themselves. Reports from those on the front lines show that all types of violence against women and girls has intensified. Our province has some of the highest rates of family violence in Canada, and we are taking action. I am pleased to announce today that Alberta's government is providing Jesse's House with a grant of $1.1 million. This critical investment in women and children living with domestic violence will not only help to ensure their safety, but also provide them with the programs and supports they need to live free from violence. This funding will help the shelter open additional beds and serve more women in rural Sturgeon County, St. Albert, and the Greater Edmonton region. These additional beds are needed now more than ever before, and I'm confident this funding will make a real difference at Jesse's House. We also know, however, that not all women have the capacity to leave a violent home life. Thanks to the dedicated shelter staff, help is always available. This investment will also support crucial community outreach services, including providing risk assessments and helping women develop safety plans, educating the community on the impacts of domestic violence, helping individuals build healthy relationships, and many other supports. I know Jesse's House is a caring, safe place dedicated to helping women and children heal from the trauma of abuse. I am pleased we are able to support the shelter and help keep the legacy of Jessica Martel alive. Jessica's story is one of profound tragedy, and it serves as a reminder to all of us of the dire impacts of domestic violence. One woman killed in a domestic violence incident is one too many. I'm just going to repeat that. One woman killed in a domestic violence incident is one too many. Thanks to legislation we implemented in April, women now have the right to ask for information that can help them determine if they are at risk. As of April 1st, people who may be at risk of domestic violence can apply to find out if their partner has a history of violence. This is an important new tool that will help reduce domestic violence in Alberta, and hopefully we will never have another story like Jessica's. Thank you, and now it's my profound pleasure to introduce Lynn Rosachuk, Jesse's mom.
Thank you so much, Minister Sawhney. I'm sorry, it might, I'm going to probably fall apart here, but on May 19th, 2020, the Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation opened its doors to Jesse's House, a 35-bed safe haven for individuals and families fleeing domestic violence and family violence. For our family, it was a dream come true. Our daughter, Jessica, a mother of 3 beautiful children, was brutally murdered by her husband in front of her 3 kids. We were devastated. We had tried so many times to get her to safety, but in our community, there wasn't a shelter or resources for her to access. She had tried to get into a shelter in Edmonton, but they were always full. There were so many families in the same situation as Jessica. And Jessica and I would often talk about how once she was free from her abuser, we would like to build a house for families fleeing abuse. We didn't want other families to have to go through the same thing that Jessica had to go through. After her death, it became our mission to see that dream come true. In January of 2012, we started our journey. The journey has not been an easy journey for our family, but I'm so proud of them. Their courage and strength has kept me going through this whole process. It was difficult for them to hear the story so many times, but they knew the importance of Jessie's house. They became a big part of this process and have volunteered countless hours to help build this legacy for Jessica. It became a healing process for our family. As I sat back on that day that Jessie's house opened, I remember sitting in front of the house and I was crying. It all seemed so surreal. There were so many emotions going through my head, but the one that stood out the most was awe. We were going to help so many people, and we have. To date, we have had over 110 people stay at Jessie's house. It is such a huge blessing to see the differences from when they first came to when they leave. There's hope in their eyes. It's what Jessica would have wanted. Her portrait in the house and her story have inspired many to leave. COVID has also impacted us in so many ways, including financially. Our ability to raise money has been impacted tremendously, also impacted the number of people. Without funding, we wouldn't survive. Your support is going to change the lives of so many people, and I truly appreciate that. Thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. And now I would like to introduce a very special person to me, our Honorable Dale Nally.
Good morning, and thank you, Lynn. And Minister Sani, thank you so much for today's important announcement. I'm Dale Nally, MLA from Morinville, St. Albert, and Associate Minister of Natural Gas and Electricity, and I'm honored to be joining you today on this very important announcement. I hold Jessie's house and the Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation close to my heart. This shelter and foundation are of life-saving importance to our community. Jessie's house opened a year ago, almost the day after more than 10 years of planning by Jessica's mom, Lynn Rosechuck, to build a facility for people that are seeking shelter from domestic violence and abuse. While it brings me great joy and optimism to hear of this funding, I am still, like many people from our community, still reeling from the great loss that catalyzed this project. These funds will allow Jessie's house to continue its essential life-saving work. I want to thank the volunteers and founders of Jessie's House and the Jessica Martel Foundation for their dedication to making our community a safer place and for building the first women's shelter in over 20 years. We as a community must look for signs of domestic abuse and guide victims towards helpful resources in a safe and discreet way. If you know someone who may be the victim of family violence, I encourage you to reach out to the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters or to your local law enforcement agency to formulate a safe plan of getting the victim the help that they need. Funding Jessie's House has now made that story a little bit, funding Jessie's House has now made that easier for people to do. And COVID-19 has taught us and shown us firsthand the importance of providing these shelters. So Minister Sani, you made today a good day for not just Lynn and not just for the residents of Morinville, St. Albert, but for everyone in Alberta that needs help. So thank you for what you did.
Please bring in Marla Welk, who is the Executive Director of Jesse's House. Marla?
Thank you so much and good morning. Violence against another human being is unacceptable. Everyone deserves to feel loved, safe, respected, and understood despite their circumstances. The Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation's mission is to empower women, men, and children to live a life free of violence. We cannot do this important work alone. It takes all of us to take a stand against domestic violence. It takes all of us to make strong, healthy, and vibrant communities possible. On behalf of our board, staff, and all of the families out there, thank you, Minister Sani and the Alberta government for taking this stand with us. Your support will allow us to continue to provide a safe haven for families in crisis through Jesse's House and the important work of outreach, awareness, education, community engagement, and empowerment. Thank you.
And thank you, Marla. Thank you, MLA Nally. Thank you, Lynn. And thank you, Minister Sani. We do have some questions this morning. And once again, reminding reporters that please keep your mics muted until you are called upon. And again, 2 questions. You can either ask those questions at once or 1 question and 1 follow-up. Operator, please put through the first caller.
Rochelle Susie, City News.
Hi there. This question is for Lynn. So, $1 million grant. Can you describe the kind of impact this funding will have on Jesse's House?
Sorry, Lynn, your mic must be muted.
Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you. Do you need the question re-asked, Lynn?
No, that's okay. Thank you. This money is huge for us. It's going to let us continue to do the work that we've already been doing. We're going to be able to open up more beds to help the many families that have been calling. Like we've already been having to turn away families because of the need. This is just going to let us open up more beds, provide more programming for the families that come through our house. This is the best news that we could have possibly gotten.
And do you have a follow-up question?
Sure. Lynn, what does this funding really mean to you? I know you've spent 10 years of your life really focused on this initiative. Can you describe what this funding really means to you?
For me and my family, since I heard the news, we haven't stopped crying. It's been, like I mentioned earlier, a very hard journey for our family. Ultimately, we would have rather have Jessica with us, but we do know that this is going to help so many families, and it makes our heart so happy to be able to do that for everyone.
Thank you. Operator, the next caller, please.
Ashley Joanno, Post Media.
Hi, good morning. I think a practical question a little bit about the money. The minister mentioned new beds, but it sounds to me like this money is actually going to allow the shelter to operate at its full capacity of 35 for the beds that already exist. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly, or are you actually adding new beds to the facility?
Hi, Ashley. That's a good question. And you are correct. There are no new beds that are going to be added to the facility. It is a 35-bed facility.
So then can somebody, I don't know whether this is someone from the organization, probably just articulate for me what would happen if you didn't get this money? How important is this money specifically, and would the shelter be able to run without it?
Hi, can you hear me okay? Yeah, are correct. As a nonprofit organization, we definitely rely on the support of the government and the community to keep our doors open. So without this funding, we're obviously at risk of not being able to keep our doors open. So it is essential for us to stay open and to support the community the way that we are and to help us to continue to grow.
Thank you. Operator, could you please put through the next caller?
Michelle Belfontaine, CBC.
Hi there. I just wanted to follow up on what Ashley just asked. So Jesse's house has been open for a year now. Has it ever operated at full capacity since it opened?
So unfortunately, due to COVID, I'm happy to say that we are at full capacity. But due to COVID and the restrictions with social distancing, we're not able to open to full capacity. But we are full. So the need, is high. And one of the things that, obviously is very disheartening to us is because of COVID. I mean, there's families that we just can't support at this time, but we do the best that we can. And the families that we aren't able to take in, we support them, and finding other places to go, because obviously their safety is our number one priority. So if we can't take them in, we do work with them to find a safe place to go.
Michelle, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I just see from the release that it says that you have been operating at half capacity. So is that correct? Like since you first opened, you've been at half capacity?
So obviously it depends on any given day where we are at in terms of numbers. So I wouldn't say that we would be at half capacity, but we are operating as full as we can. So if we take in, so for example, if we take in a single female and we have 2 beds to a room, we can't take another person into that room, correct? So if we were to take in a mother and a child, then that obviously fluctuates our numbers. So sometimes we'd be running at half capacity, and sometimes we could be running at higher numbers than that, depending on how we do our intakes.
Thank you for that. Operator, please put through our next caller.
Fletcher Kent, Global News.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. My question's first question's for the minister there. Number of groups dealing with domestic violence have talked about the importance of other sort of issues like affordable housing, gun control, early intervention programs, and significant investment into that. I mean, obviously the shelters are a very important side of things as well, but what kind of focus do you think your government should have and will have in the future here on some of those other issues?
Okay, well, as we know, domestic violence isn't something that occurs in a silo. There are many other aspects that contribute to this complex situation. So in terms of what the government is investing, I mean, we are investing over $50 million in homeless shelters, as well as $51.3 million in women's shelters. And in addition to that, we are also investing more than $90 million per year in the Housing First program. So there are a number of government investments that are taking place right now. And as we navigate what the future is going to look like in a post-pandemic scenario, we know that there's going to be more situations that will require a concerted focus from community and social services. So we'll definitely keep an eye on the situation.
Fletcher, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do. It's a bit more of a technical side of things, probably for somebody with Jesse's house. Just reading into this, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like a one-time grant for $1.1 million. What happens in the years to come?
Question. So yes, right now, this is a $1.1 million grant for this fiscal year, and we will continue to work with Jesse's House to determine what their operational needs will look like, and we're just happy that we have more capacity introduced into the Edmonton region. But as we move forward and as we're putting our budgets together, we'll make sure that this relationship and this dialogue is ongoing to determine what the needs are going to look like in the future.
Thank you. The next caller, please, operator.
Juanita Aruz, Free Press newspaper.
Are you there? Your mic might be muted. Next caller, please, operator.
Michelle Bellefontaine, CBC.
Oh, hi. I just need to clarify this in my head. Maybe I just haven't had enough coffee today. Forgive me. So getting back to the capacity issue, I was asking about beds. So the capacity of Jesse's house is 35 beds. So has Jesse's house operated at 17 beds since it opened? Can you clarify that for me? I'm just trying to determine where the new money is going to.
Sorry, can you ask that question again? I'm not quite clear on what you're asking.
Yeah, sure. So we're told that the capacity of your facility is 35 beds. And then the government news release says that you've been operating at half capacity since you opened. That says to me that you've been operating with 17 beds since you opened. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. So we do operate at 35 beds, but depending on it depends on the room, right? So some of our rooms, can take up to 5 people. So if we have a family of 5 or larger come in, that would fill up a room. But if we have some rooms that have 2 beds in them, which would be for 2 single people coming into the house, or it could be a mom or a dad coming in with their child. That would also take up 2 spaces. But if we have a single person coming in, they would take 1 bed, and that would leave a bed vacant because of the space, right? So we don't always operate at half capacity. Sometimes we've been at larger, like currently right now, we're over our half capacity based off of the people that are staying in the house. I hope that answers your question a little bit better.
Did you have one last follow-up?
Yeah. Well, I'm confused because we're being told that the money is going towards opening up new beds. And then I know my colleague Ashley from the Journal confirmed that the money would be not for new beds, but to allow the shelter to operate at full capacity. So I'm just really confused about what this money is being used for. So I'm wondering if somebody can help me out with that.
So you know what, I'll just jump in here, Michelle, and I can understand that this might seem confusing. So what I will do is I'll commit to get back to you with all of the statistics since the facility opened last year. And because of COVID restrictions, I mean, the capacity numbers have changed, and they will change because of the restrictions that are in place. But I do understand that you're looking for more clarity around this, and we will follow up with you afterwards.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you to Lynn and Marla and MLA Nally, and thank you for watching and for the reporters who joined in today. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.